الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين. أما بعد, Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala tells us in His glorious book in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 67, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ قال موسى لقومه إن الله يأمركم أن تذبحوا بقرة قالوا أتتخذنا هزوا قال أعوذ بالله أن أكون من الجاهلين. And recall when Moses said to his people, indeed, Allah commands you to slaughter a cow. They said, do you take us in ridicule? He said, I seek refuge in Allah from being among the ignorant. Now when Allah Ta'ala tells us a story in the Quran, it's not for the story itself, but it's for the lesson that we have to learn from it. Because the stories in the Quran are recurring. They're part of human history and human nature that they will reoccur from time to time. So Allah teaches us, through these stories. Now the background of the story is they had a rich Jewish person was killed. And the person who killed him took him and dumped his body close to another tribe. So the other tribe were accused and they almost got into it, into a war. And their prophet Moses said, Allah wanted to teach him, because they were all very materialistic. Allah wanted to teach them about resurrection, that there is more than, this life. There's an afterlife. So the prophet told them, Allah is ordering you to slaughter a cow, take a piece of it, hit the dead with it, he will come to life and he will tell you who killed him. Their immediate reaction was, are you kidding us? Are you making fun of us? Now is that how you talk to a prophet of Allah? Like a prophet of Allah is going to sit there and kid with them? I mean, such bad manners. And then they started arguing. People who do not want to implement Allah's order always argue. Oh, I want proof. How about this? How about that? So they started arguing. Oh, what age is it? And each, what color it is. What function it serves. And in each verse, Allah says, إِنَّهُ يَقُولُ إِنَّهَا بَقَرَةٌ. Allah is saying it's a cow. Any cow will do. Nope. They just kept arguing and arguing until the description was so specific that it matched a single cow that was owned by an orphan. His dad was righteous and they had to pay for its price. Its skin was filled with gold. That was the price for that cow. They could have saved themselves a lot of trouble by getting any cow and doing it. But no, they wanted to argue and argue and argue until they had no way out. Because they had no intention, and Allah in the Quran says, they had no intention of doing it. فَذَبَحُوهَا وَمَا كَادُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. So, فَقُلْنَا ضْرِبُوهُ بِبَعْضِهَا, verse 73, فَقُلْنَا ضْرِبُوهُ بِبَعْضِهَا كَذَلِكَ يُحْيِي اللَّهُ الْمَوْتَى وَيُرِيكُمْ آيَاتِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. Take a piece of it, hit it, and thus Allah will show you His signs. So when they slaughtered the cow, they took a part of it, hit the dead with it. The deceased person got back to life, says, my nephew, or his nephew killed him, and then he fell back dead. So Allah was teaching them a lesson that there is more than what you see in this life. There's an afterlife, there's an akhirah, there's a resurrection. Just like the dead came back to life, thus all of us will come back to life one day to face the accounting. So that was one lesson about resurrection. The second lesson is the moral of the story is don't argue. When Allah's order is clear, implement. Do not argue the order and try to find a way around it. That's what people with weak faith or people who don't believe, that's what they do. People with strong faith, they go sami'na wa ata'na. We hear and we obey, and they implement right away. They don't argue. Once the clear evidence from Quran or authentic Sunnah is presented, that's it. Discussion is over. There is no discussion. Arguing is only valid when you're arguing with an equal. You know, if somebody had to argue with me and we're on the same level, yeah, we can argue about things and you have your opinion, I have my opinion. But Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the creator. He is the Lord and we are the servants. We have no room to argue about anything once Allah and His Prophet have established a ruling in the matter. And disagreements on secondary issues, that's the source of a lot of the infighting between Muslims. You know, some may even twist the facts until everything becomes permissible. You know, if you want a fatwa for everything, you can find somebody who will give you a fatwa for just about anything you want. But that's not obedience. That's you trying to find a way out of your obligations. So God, you know, some people may claim God did not forbid alcohol. He just said, stay away from it. Such an ignorant statement. You know, when Allah says, فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ, stay away from it, means you have nothing to do with it. Stay clear. Don't even come close. It's like a high voltage field. If you get close to it, it's going to suck you and you're going to turn into a piece of charcoal. Do not come close to it. Do not buy it. Do not sell it. Do not make it. Do not carry it. There are so many things that you should never, you know, so that's the highest form of prohibition is don't even come close to it. Another one is you have, you know, some people coming up, it's like now, you know, in this day and age, you know, it's so barbaric to cut the hand of the thief. When Allah says in Surah An-Nisa, وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ فَاقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا جَزَاءً بِمَا كَسَبَا نَكَالًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Allah says, the one who steals, male or female, you cut their hand. That's Allah's hukum. We see today what happens. How you know, with all the laws made by man, how is, you know, what are the statistics of robberies? Are they going down? Or, you know, because now you go in there, they give you a slap on the hand, and they release you, and then they go and do it again. There's no you know, anything to prevent them from not doing it. The point from Allah's order was not to actually cut the hand, but to pose a deterrent for others not to do it. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. In punishment, there is life for you. Because when people fear punishment, they won't do it. So they save themselves the trouble and they live. So that's, you know, we cannot argue about these orders, and we cannot say that it was valid 1500 years ago. Allah's orders are valid for any time, any place, any people. You know, it's from now till the end, from 1500 years ago till the day of judgment. Allah has created us. He knows what's best. When Allah says, this is what you supposed to do, you're not going to find a better solution, I guarantee you. There is no better solution. So God specified the punishment, so it's not for any of us to come up with a different, better solution. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala ordered everything that brings us closer to Him and forbid us from everything that drives us away from Him. So any command you see in the Quran and the Sunnah, whether you know the wisdom behind it, whether you agree with it or not, it's for your best interest. It is for your best interest in this life and in the hereafter. And there are also things that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala did not mention. He did not say anything about it. But people who love to argue wants to dig in. Like in the story of, Sayyidina Sulaiman and the ant that was warning, the other ants that, to hide in there. ادخلوا مساكنكم لا يحطمنكم سليمان وجنوده. And then you got people totally missed the story. Was that ant black or white? Was it male or female? Who cares? Allah did not mention, so don't ask. Do not ask about things that Allah intentionally left out of the story, because that has nothing to do with the story. You focus on the moral of the story, not on the details. Do I eat rice or bread? Eat whatever you want. Allah gave us specific things we should not eat. Everything else, it's halal. Eat it, eat it and there's no problem. Walking behind a funeral. Do I walk in the front, in the back, on the left, on the right? As long as you're not in the coffin, walk wherever you want. It doesn't matter where you walk. So don't ask about things that if, لا تسألوا عن أشياء تبدأ لكم تسؤكم. The Sahaba, used to ask about things before the Quran would reveal and make it hard on themselves. So the question is, the point is, focus, on Allah's obedience and don't ask a lot of questions. Because اليوم أتممت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Islam is complete, qualitatively and quantitatively. Everything that you need for success in this life and in the hereafter is in the Quran. It's not missing anything. So don't go searching for detail that is not explained by Allah because it has nothing to do with it. It's just curiosity that killed the cat, So when Allah Ta'ala remains silent on certain details, don't go seeking them. Don't, that is not appropriate. The sinful will always question. They will always, because if you don't know whom issued the order, you're going to try to get around the order. That's why we have to know who it is who we worship. Who it is Allah, His beautiful names. The more you know who Allah is, the more you are faster in implementing His orders. Because if you know that Allah exists, He knows and He will punish, you'll be steadfast. You'll shape up. You don't go running, a red light with a camera on it. Why? Because they know if you're on the red light, and they can come in, fine you and take your car, take your driver's license. So with a human being, you shape up. With Allah, you're not. We have to know who it is who we are worshipping. And Allah Ta'ala says, وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا أَنْ يَكُونَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِمْ. In the beginning of Surah Al-Ahzab, chapter 33, verses 36, in the beginning of that verse. It is not for a believing man or woman when Allah and His Messenger decree a matter to have any other choice in the matter. There is no my opinion. I think, who are you to think? It is not our place when Allah and His Prophet, in the Quran and the authentic Sunnah, once a matter is clear, there is no discussion. Discussion is over. The only thing we have, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا غُفْرَانَكَ رَبَّنَا وَإِلَيْكَ الْمَصِيرُ. Our only course of action is we hear and we obey. There is no discussion. There is no, maybe, marrying more than one woman is not allowed. Well, Allah gave you 4. He didn't tell you everyone to go and marry 4 women. He said you have that up to that number, but one is better if if you treat them right, because you're not going to be able to treat them equally. So it's, you cannot ask, no woman scholar will ever stand up and say, that's not right. They'll tell you, I have no opinion. Allah decreed the matter, I have no opinion. There is no me. There's no my opinion. I'm nobody when it comes to Allah's orders. So the proper behavior for all of us when we see a direct command from Allah and His Prophet is sami'na wa ata'na. We hear and we obey. The justification, whether we understand the wisdom behind it or not, understanding the wisdom is not a prerequisite for doing it. Like you would have sometimes your little kid. It's like, well, convince me and I will obey you. Don't do that with Allah. Don't put a condition on your obedience that you have to understand the wisdom behind the order. The justification for a divine order is just that. It's a divine order. That's all the justification you need to know. Once Allah says do or don't, matter is closed. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لكم فاستغفروه إنه غفور رحيم.